All right. Ryan, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Awesome. Looks like we got a few people here, which is great. Um, I'm just going to start with a quick introduction to 81 Monkeys because I know there's a lot of people here probably, this would be their first fireside. I am recording this, so um, you guys can come and listen to this later, and we'll post it. We should post it later today. So, but yeah, 81 Monkeys. So we're a 12-person studio. We've been working together. The core team and I have been working together for 5 to 10 years, both at 81 Monkeys and across other studios and on many different projects. Collectively, we have over 40 launched titles under our belts. Most of those are Ryan's actually. But I guess the next closest would be myself. Um, yeah. I mean, I would go through and introduce us individually, but the whole team's not going to be here today. It's actually a holiday here in Canada, um, and I just felt it was a good day to get a fireside out, and we have some exciting stuff to share. So a little bit on World of Antera and sort of like where this game came from. Um, you know, it was like one of those games that was in the back of my mind. It was like a dream project, but it was sort of more like a faded dream, something I never really thought that I was going to get an opportunity to take on. And then one day it hit me that this is actually the game that I wanted to make, and I brought it to the studio and pitched it to everyone. Um, and slowly, this became our dream game, not just mine, really the whole studio's. And I think we all woke up to the fact, probably about a year ago, that this really is the game we're meant to do, and that everything we've done prior has led us to this moment. Sometimes I think like, gosh, I wish we had started this years ago. But the truth is, I don't think we would be creating the same game if we started this years ago. I think our skills, our processes, our wisdom, it's at a point where it's just right, and we're just making exponential, um, faster results, because of the years that we've had leading up to this moment. Um, so what do I have to announce? Well, the first thing, and some of you may have heard this because I have shared it on Discord, we are officially announcing our Kickstarter launch date as August 20th. So that's the day that we're going to turn it on. Super excited to have that. It's a real monumental task to set up a Kickstarter. I just acknowledge all those developers that have come before us and done this. It's not an easy feat. Writing your game in a one page format in a really succinct way, preparing all the trailers and images and graphic design. It's a lot of work. And I'm the reason we're able to announce this date is because we've gotten to a point where we see the finish line, and we believe that we have more than enough time to get everything that we want to get together for a Kickstarter page. And I just can't wait to share it with everybody here. There's a lot of things about our Kickstarter page, a lot of lessons that we've taken from other Kickstarters. Really spent a lot of time understanding the pros and cons and putting together something that we think is really compelling, not just from a marketing standpoint, but from just a personal level as well. We've backed Kickstarters, and we've seen, you know, our expectations not be met, or Kickstarters just not even happen. But we've also seen Kickstarters be a wild success, and games that come to Kickstarter that I personally have backed have become really big successes, and that that pride that I get for having been there sort of from day one. So that's the type of knowledge that we take to our Kickstarter, and hopefully that's what you guys see when it goes live. We're just about to hit 2,000 pre-Kickstarter signups, which is incredible. That's separate from our website tracker. I know if you guys have seen our website, we have a number there. Those are website signups. So those are people that sign up to our newsletter. But our Kickstarter page is separate. So obviously there's some overlap there. But to have 2,000 people sign up at this point is really extraordinary. And we couldn't be happier. It's very motivating. It's very inspiring to see that number go up. We do have a goal, so we're hoping to get maybe double that pre Kickstarter, because one of the things, and you guys, for those of you who are familiar with Kickstarter, you would know that hitting your funding goal early on can be quite motivating for backers to see that there's that momentum and that people are excited by the game, to know it's funded. Because once a game's funded, that when you purchase your tier, that's happening. There's no ifs about it. So that's something that's really important to us, which is why we want to get that number up to match our funding goal. As part of the work that we're doing, you guys, I know we released that cave video recently. I just love the visuals and the sound in that. We are actually working on about a dozen videos or so. I think that's right, Ryan. And that includes like an expanded cave video. It includes a bunch of environmental showcases. So some environments that we may not have shown previously on our Kickstarter. A really great interface showcase video. We have some really cool aspects to our interface, and we're making a feature showcase of that. We're making a feature showcase of our dialogue system. We're making an expanded feature showcase of our lighting and shadowing system, because although we've showed a fair bit, there's still more to show, and as well as just a sort of breakdown of why we believe this type of lighting and shadowing system is so important to a game like ours. And then lastly is a feature showcase for our combat. And I know a lot of people have asked questions about it, and we've done our best to answer those questions without misleading people for what we're creating. So we just realized that to do combat justice, we have to do a really solid feature showcase for combat. And that combat video is going to include melee, ranged, and magic. It'll also include nighttime and daytime combat, because again, lighting, nighttime, daytime is an important aspect of our game and will change the way you experience things, including combat. So we're super excited to show that off. Yeah. So that's pretty much the, catch up. There is one more sort of key piece that I want to share, and then I'm going to move into a questions and Q&A or AMA style fireside. So, if you guys have questions, put them in the fireside chat. I'll do my best to get to all of them. I'm not in a rush. So, if your question doesn't get answered right away and you stick around, quite possibly I'll get to everything. That's my goal. But something that I want to share is a sort of initiative that we've come up with here at 808 Monkeys. I think some of you may have read that I alluded to having some contest for sharing our game. But after talking to other devs and talking to the community, I realized it's bigger than just our game. So we came up with an initiative, but let me give you a little bit of a backstory for those of you that haven't read the post. Somebody reached out to me on Facebook via Messenger, like not me, but to the World of Antera page. And they asked jokingly if they could have an NPC named after them. And I replied jokingly, share our game and get 1,000 likes and you can have an NPC named after you. And they got back and said, oh no, 1,000 likes, that's way too many. I don't think I could do that. But I think we both know that it was a joke, but it actually inspired me. I thought that could be a really cool way to engage our community, is to have a contest where people, rather than like, we're actually on our Kickstarter, one of the things that we're working hard not to do is have the Kickstarter have a big impact on our game. Like, I played other games. For those of you who are familiar with Pillars of Eternity, you could, if you backed a tier, you could have your name on gravestones around the world. And what ended up happening is when you played that game and you went to a gravestone, there was like these walls of names from backers, and it really kind of took you out of the game. I didn't really like it. The other thing they did in there was you actually you could become like this spirit NPC. And so there are villages with these NPCs that didn't really have any dialogue or talk to you. But when you walk up to them, you could sort of touch them and this like spirit memory would come up. And it's just like a little short story that was written or inspired by the backers themselves. But again, it's like it didn't feel like it was part of the game. It felt like it was sort of forced in there, and it sort of took you out of the games. I wasn't really a fan of that, and I don't want to have anything like that in ours. We do have really cool concepts for custom content and how backers can actually have their sort of fingerprint in the game, but not in a way that's intrusive to the game experience of other players. So I won't get into all that right now, but anyways, the this person asked, and I thought, what would be cool if I could run a contest on our Discord and actually let some community members name NPCs and potentially give us some backstory so that we could use that to, derive the dialogue for that NPC. And I just thought that would be so cool. And I think as a player, to know I've had that mark on the game would be really exciting. And so my initial idea was, let's get the community to share our game, because that'll help us achieve our goal prior to the Kickstarter. And that's really the most meaningful way that community members can support our game. But I sort of sat on it for a while, and I realized it's not actually just about our game. It's bigger than that, right? Like indie games in general, indie studios like ours that are sort of fighting and struggling, and funding's an issue, and growing communities like we've been doing is probably one of the most effective things an indie studio can do. And I would encourage any indie developers out there to take this on. Even if you have 12 people or 100 people, that's your community. And that those people there can have such an impact on your game. So the best thing that anyone could do for an indie developer is share their game, right? Some of you have come here because we've been running Facebook ads, and we have a very limited budget. It's actually just about to dry up. It's been really successful for us. I think we've managed to release enough content about the game and images and videos that people have gotten excited about it, which is great. But the biggest impact that anyone could have before our Kickstarter is sharing our game. So here's the idea. We're going to do a 10 days of sharing challenge. It's not just for our game. This is for any indie game. And people who share the game can go and emote on the post. And for every emote we get, we don't need proof that was shared. This is really just honor system. For every emote we get, you get entered into a raffle to name an NPC. And currently we're planning to do 5 NPCs. We may actually expand that, but I don't want to make any promises. I can promise 5. We could do more, and it might actually, what might impact it is how this process goes. Like when we get those 5 winners and they name NPCs with us and they give us a little backstory so that we can use that to drive the dialogue. If that process goes well, we may actually expand it to more of the people, but we'll definitely do 5. Now, before you get all excited about your idea to name somebody Namey McNamerson, we will be vetting all the NPC names. So, you may win the contest and give us a name, and we may be like, oh, that's a great name, but it doesn't quite fit in or something like that. There's going to be a bit of a process in figuring that out. But I'm sure that everyone's going to be excited to have that opportunity to work with us to figure that out. And we'll create a separate channel for the winners where we can all openly discuss it. So all winners can participate in that, see the names and see the backstory ideas. So all you have to do is share an indie game, any indie game. Obviously sharing our game is going to be really important to us, but we didn't want to make it just simply about us. We wanted to take this as an opportunity to educate the community on the power that you guys have for any indie game project. And, the ways that people have shared our game is simply by tagging a friend or posting on their personal Facebook page, in Facebook groups, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Reddit, even just a text message, chat, messenger, directly to somebody, and of course on another Discord server. Most Discord servers have promo channels. So I will post all of these ideas in the post, and then each day we'll add an emote to it, and everyone who clicks on that emote will be entered automatically. So there's nothing else you have to do other than just say, hey, I've shared a game. And we're actually going to be turning our ads off for the next few days and seeing, what type of impact this has. We're going to be sharing this 10 days of sharing on our Twitter and our Facebook as well. So it's not just for Discord. However, you have to be a Discord member on our server to participate in the contest, because we need to be able to track who's said that they've shared and whatnot. Anyways, that's the idea. I'd love to hear what you guys think. It's not really a comfortable position to be in, where you're, asking your community to do something like this. I've worked on social games and mobile games, and a lot of times I've designed, or the teams I've worked on, we've designed incentives within the game to sort of share it, whether it's like you get a gift for friends or whatever. And I never really that was never really the thing I enjoyed the most about being a game designer on those platforms. Was trying to push people to do things like that. But, I really believe this. This is something that I do, that the team does. We love sharing other games. You guys have probably seen me share other projects, just even here on the Discord in the video game discussion channel. I definitely, it's something really important to me. And if somehow the World of Antera community can set a, sort of teach the rest of the communities out there the value of this, that's a huge contribution that we can make to indie game development in general. So yeah, August 20th. We're we're super excited about launching a Kickstarter. We're nervous too. I gotta say, I try not to let my anxiety and stress get the better of me. But boy, it's been a pretty stressful few weeks. When the stress goes, those moments, the stress goes away, is when we produce something like that cave scene, and I'm able to pick up the controller and walk around in that cave and see the shadows and the spiders, or actually, play our combat. Those are the moments where it's like, man, I think we're actually going to do this. It's like, the stress is just part and parcel. It's funny, actually. Our team, I was always proud of the fact that there wasn't a lot of stress in the studio. I always was proud of the fact that I didn't sense a lot of stress and anxiety from the team, that I wasn't passing a lot of the things that stress me out as the founder down onto the team. I wasn't putting pressure on them. We didn't have deadlines. We just focused on doing what we love doing. And the moment that I said, hey guys, we're going to do an August 2020 Kickstarter launch, which was, I think, was it like a month ago, Ryan, that we started? I feel like it was.
Anyways. Yeah, I started almost a month ago, definitely.
About a month ago. Yeah, moment. What's that? Yeah. Sorry, go on.
Oh, yeah, no, we did start a bit before then, but really seriously biting into it was about a little less than a month ago, yeah.
We've been talking about it probably for close to 6 months, maybe even longer, doing research and reaching out to other Kickstarter developers, and even running polls in other communities and finding out what people like and don't like about Kickstarters. Like that work's been many, many months, but actually going to the team and saying, okay, guys, we're doing this. We're doing it August 20th. All of a sudden, I started sensing stress and anxiety across the whole team. It wasn't just me. And I actually I didn't know how to deal with it. I'm like, gosh, how do I, I don't want them all to worry. I really believe that this is a good time frame that we can pull it off. But, sometimes you just have to let people deal with stuff. But I think the idea that we're going to be putting our game out there in that way is really uncomfortable. It's super nerve wracking. So, um,
I
yeah,
think the big thing is that yes, we're far along. I mean, a reasonable bit along, but just to like make sure that people get a good sense of the game through the Kickstarter, it's pretty daunting. Just making sure that everyone's got the best idea possible that they can have before, without actually having the game finished. It's a scary proposition.
yeah, totally agree, Ryan. Um, yeah, so just Chaotic Demon asked about alpha betas. So we actually have like a functioning demo here in the studio. We've been like the way that we develop is we work really hard to complete features, make those features bug free, and integrate them into the experience. And so we're continually integrating features. And even though sometimes a bit uncomfortable, we work really hard to make those features as bug free as possible. So we're not just creating a long laundry list, of issues that we're going to have to come back to at a later date. We don't do that. And we have a working demo here in the studio. And we actually believe that that working demo is going to be ready to launch shortly after our Kickstarter. That's always been our goal. We wanted to, um, tell people back our game and get a demo. That was really important to us. The moment you back our game, we're going to open backer channels, and we're going to allow those people to have a direct line of communication with us. And the only way that's going to be valuable is if they get the game and have it in their hands and can play it, and that we can release updates to the community and get that feedback from them. So it's, can't promise anything because like having these what are typically called vertical slices mid develop, a lot of things can come up, but we're confident that we're going to have a demo to share with our backer community within a month, within 30 days after a Kickstarter, if not sooner. And if there's any changes to that schedule, we will let everybody know, immediately, and be fully transparent with the work that's going on. That's really important to us. There's a platform that we found that we're planning to leverage, which actually we would host the build for the game, and through that platform, people would get access to it, and they can even write any bugs or things like that they notice. We're going to want to keep feedback and things like that to Discord because it's better to have those in open conversations with the community. It's also better to have people just see what's going on and hear other people's thoughts on stuff, and then hear our responses to, the feedback. But this platform's really great because we can control who gets access to it, as opposed to just having like a build that we send out and just out into the world and people do whatever they want with it. So we still have to figure out exactly if that's the right route or how we want to do it, but we're confident that that's going to be solved, and that we'll have a really good solution for distributing the game builds. So it's a very long one answered your question. Dave, you were asking about combat. I thought it was a Firefly. Yes. No, that's something that those are one of those mechanics, and I know you said it in jest, but who knows? Maybe we will have you list wildlife in your journal. No cameras though. We're not going to go the Zelda route with a magic slate a magic tablet that takes pictures. But we do have a journal that will list all the creatures in the game. A bestiary for all your enemies, and we have some really cool mechanics that are tied directly to that. That actually helps support our open world as well. So, what was the question there? So, yeah, that's a good question, and I see puzzle piece posted an answer there. So the demo is going to be PC. At least the backer demo is going to be PC, It's just really simple for us to distribute it. It's going to have full controller support. So, our games have been built from the ground up to work seamlessly across keyboard, mouse, and controller. That's been something really important to us, and I think we came up with this just a wonderful solution so that our HUD and UI actually doesn't change whether you're on console or PC. And it doesn't feel like either. It doesn't feel like a PC game that's been finagled to work on the console or vice versa. I never have liked that experience. It's part of why I don't like seeing mobile games coming to Switch and stuff like that, because you load it up and it doesn't feel like it was built for that hardware. Um, I really don't believe anyone's going to have that experience with our game. So with the demo, currently the way we have it built, and I don't know if this is going to stay, but I can pick up the controller and start playing, or I could put the controller down and start playing with the keyboard mouse. And there's little subtle differences to the UI that adjusts in real time. So you don't actually have to go to the setting, switch to controller, close the setting. It's actually seamless. But it's a great way for us to be testing the game both on controller and mouse keyboard. I would love to release a demo earlier for backers on console. And it's possible that we're not going to be able to release a backer only one. That's just not how consoles work. But when we do release the demo in the spring, because we're planning to release a spring public demo that you would find on our Steam page or on Good Old Games. It would be great if we had, a Nintendo Switch, a PlayStation, Xbox demo at that time as well. But there is a whole certification like process that you have to go through just to have your game on consoles. We would have to go through that certification for the demos, and it's actually quite a bit of work. So we can't promise a console demo until after our launch date or around our launch date, because we are planning to launch simultaneously on console and PC. That is July 2023. So it's likely that in July we'll also have a console demo. But as much as I'd love to see it before that, I can't promise it. So if you're a console player and you're really curious about the game, we'll release some Let's Plays. We'll release a lot of gameplay videos. I'm sure other people in the community will do it as well. So you'll have a great opportunity to sort of understand what the experience is like playing World of Antera, even though you can't necessarily get it in your own hands. So, yeah, I did bring up the bestiary in a previous fireside. It's it's um it's a it's a cool idea that we haven't actually shared any information on. But I can tell you guys, I don't know if I explained this on the last fireside, so maybe this is some hot info right here. But since you brought it up, Dave, we actually have some of the progression tied to the creature type. So if you fight a skeleton, let's say, the more you fight a skeleton, the better you will become at fighting skeletons. And that progression is represented in the bestiary. So, you might learn how to land better criticals, or maybe learn how to better defend against them. And you'll unlock these sort of bonuses against those enemy types. And the reason why that's so compelling for us is because we want the game to be as open as possible, meaning you can wander around this world even as sort of a newbie, and that it's always challenging. So if you stick in one region and fight a bunch of the monsters, they'll start becoming more easy. Obviously, you'll level your character up and get better gear and stuff like that. That'll make it easier. But when you go to the new area and you start finding creatures that you haven't fought before, there's going to be some challenge there as you start to encounter them for the first time. That's not the only system. There's a bunch of other systems that keep the game challenging throughout. And I won't get into all that right now, but the bestiary is just one of those ways. Plus, it's just a wonderful sense of progression because you get to progress with each, creature type specifically and unlock more information about them and unlock more abilities or whatever. Yeah, I just love that. Love seeing that progression and actually getting to go and look in the bestiary and seeing that progression go up and seeing which ones you've kind of maxed out, stuff like that. It's going to be really cool. So, yeah, yeah, that's a, that's a, what are you going to say, Ryan? Good. Yeah. These are Yeah, yeah, definitely. These are good. This is a great question, and these are great games as well. In fact, there we did do a fireside where specifically we talked about open world mechanics and things we liked and didn't like about open worlds. I highly recommend you go and check that fireside out. But our game is a true open world game, and um, you know, this is it's not only is it true open world, it's a truly non-linear experience as well. Of course, there's going to be areas, bosses, narrative beats, quests that you have to do certain actions to sort of progress them. But no, our game is a true open world. So you may start the game on the main continent, and each of them in the main continent, I think there's like 6 regions that are, or actually 7 regions that are unique to each other. You can wander around all of those. You're going to have to be careful what creatures that you fight, because from region to region there's going to be some mobs that are more difficult and things like that. But you can wander around freely, go to different towns. There are ways to travel more safely in our game. So it's not like random encounters and things like that necessarily, although that stuff may happen as well. But it's an open world game. You can go where you want. You can progress in sort of the main quest has these like at each sort of phase of the main quest, there's about maybe like a dozen objectives or something, and you can actually choose which of those objectives you take on first. This is really important to us. So we really wanted to have this free non-linear experience, and a lot of our progression systems and our game mechanics and our UI, supporting mechanics like exploration, that's all tied to it. So there's going to be resource gathering, and there's going to be crafting, and there's going to be camping, and all of those things you're going to get better at as you play the game. Eventually, you not even eventually, I mean, this could be a goal of yours really early on. You get a boat and start sailing the oceans and exploring other areas that you can't access without necessarily, and having that freedom to sort of feel like you're playing the game in the way that you want to play it, that's really important to us. So yeah. Did I answer the question, Ryan? I think I did. um what else do we have here? Yeah, so let's play the demo. The demo. So the scenes that you guys are seeing, these like the campfire, the cave scene, that's all from the demo. Also the beach and the village. There is the way that we're building this demo is it's actually a location in the world. So the world, the demo takes place on an island in the world, and in the demo you're not gonna be able to get off the island. That's part of the narrative of the demo, actually. I don't want to spoil it, but there's going to be diverse areas to go explore. There's going to be a town. There's going to be a number of NPCs. There's going to be a number of sort of quests to do on there. There's going to be a number of enemies to fight, and that's our plans for the demo. So the story of the demo will there like when the full game comes out, you can go back to that island. You won't be the same character who played in the demo, but maybe some of that character's actions will be mentioned in the final version. We're treating it like a piece of the game, which I think is really great. And this is actually one of the great things about how we've approached this Kickstarter. We didn't start building the game for Kickstarter. We started building the game because we wanted to make the game. We started working on all the world building tools and all this stuff. If we knew our goal was to do a Kickstarter, we probably would have changed how we develop a little bit. We would have moved towards a demo. That demo may have been just a throwaway demo. The great thing is what we're going to show in our demo is actually the game. Like you may not be able to see the whole world, but it's actually there. And it's great because everything we put in there is something we've built for the actual production game as well. So yeah, thanks for the great comments, by the way. Is there a class system? Yes. So there is. And the way that we've designed the world is there are sort of core regions to the world, and those regions have their own tenets. Um, these aren't like these aren't like virtues like Ultima. These are more tenets that derive the culture of the region and the dominant professions, and through those dominant professions come classes. So you will find some your typical sort of things like fighters and rogues and mages and like a hunter ranger class and a druid or sort of cleric priest type class. I'm not, they're probably not all going to be named exactly like that because really World of Antera has such a deep lore and mythos that there is so much opportunity for us to create these compelling classes, characters, and archetypes that really fit in our game rather than simply just copying what's out there. But mage probably won't change, for instance, or rogue won't change, although our rogues are slightly different than what you maybe would typically get from a rogue. um, but and so as far as the player character goes, the player character, so you can have up to 3 other party members on your crew. Um, so it'd be you and 3 others, so a 4-person party total. You can also bring non-party members with you, possibly a pet and possibly a quest NPC, maybe somebody you have to bring somewhere or something like that, or somebody you found stranded on the road and needs to get back to town. They can come with you, so you can go above your party limit. Maybe you can hire, like mercenaries that go above your party limit as well, but it's you and 3 others. Your character is unique in the world. You're more of a blank slate. Your character can progress in any way. So this is more like Skyrim, where you really have nonlinear progression and you can choose what abilities you focus on. You can create a hybrid character with yours. Whereas the classes or party members you find, they're going to be more limited. But that plays into our party system where you may want to, you like whatever your style is, you may want more archers, like 2 rangers and a fighter and a mage. That may be your setup. You may want a rogue and 2 mages. I don't know, a rogue and 2 mages and a fighter. So, and then within those classes, there are some customizations and focuses, right? So if you want your fighter to focus on a sword and shield, for instance, there are abilities that you could progress that character towards, or maybe you want them to use a 2-handed weapon or something like that. So, yeah, there's again, we wanted the game to feel non-linear and like the player has the control, but we also we love that we love having classes and archetypes and party management and we love tying that into the actual lore of the world. And so, while also giving the player that nonlinear progression for their own character. So yeah. Um, yeah. Yeah. Um, that's a good question. So, we, so this is something that we haven't got too much into because we didn't want to mislead people. So some of you may know that we have an overworld, and we had an overworld on our website. We actually pulled it down and replaced it with our map. The reason why we did that is because when people saw the overworld, I think that it was a bit misleading in how our game functions, because they didn't have very many comparisons to go off of. Like if you think of Final Fantasy or Dragon Quest or you know even old Ultima games, their overworld functioned in a certain way. And so you'd wander this overworld, you get into a random fight, it would pull you into this little area where you'd fight in, then you go back to the overworld. That's not how our game works. And our game has 2 levels, basically, an overworld level and a zoomed in location level. Your exploration is going to happen in that zoomed in location level. You can walk from one area to the next without going back to the overworld. The overworld acts more like a fast travel, and it establishes this epic global, this sense of scale that we're going for. that we couldn't really do. We would have to have it be more like a smaller region, like Breath of the Wild or even Skyrim. But we wanted to have continents and oceans. So we were like, we need this overworld, but we don't want this overworld to act like other overworlds. So we've designed a number of systems that create this great sense of not just the grandeur, but great integration with exploration and open world mechanics that are tied to that overworld. So when you're walking on the overworld, you may see things like smoke coming out of the forest that it's like, oh, there's something over there. Or maybe one of your party members alerts you to something they see in the distance. And so you'll find these things by wandering the overworld, and then you can go over there and go in. But one of the most cool things I think about our overworld system is you can actually go in anywhere. Like every single step on the overworld, you can go in, zoom in, and wander around in. And there are tons of these locations. And the way that we've built it is we leverage some procedural system. We're making a handcrafted game first. Let me just establish that. Like the whole game's handcrafted. But we have like 15,000 of these locations on the overworld to go into. And for us to design handcraft every 15,000, that's a lot. So what we did was we came up with this procedural pixel art environmental generation system that integrates handcrafted features. So we can build a huge handcrafted area, that just the whole area, and then that could be in the map, or we can have like a little shrine that you find, and that shrine is integrated into a procedural generated area. The areas that get procedural generated are going to feel handcrafted, and they're going to seed into your game, which means if you go back there, that area will stay the same. In fact, if you fought enemies there, their corpses will probably still be there, or items lying around, whatever. Yeah, I mean, I could go on about this system a lot. I'm super excited about it, but I realize, like, you know, if we're going to show it off, we got to show it off properly. So hopefully I did a good job explaining it here. But if you have more questions about it, if this left you with more unanswered questions, just feel free to post them. We'll keep talking about it. Let me see what else we have here. Thanks for the comment, Chaotic Demon. Like honestly, that really means a lot, and it's like it's tough. It's tough to map out a game and say, hey, it's going to launch in July next year. It's tough to say, we're for sure going to have a demo in September at the end of our Kickstarter. But what's not hard to say is that we're going to be in communication with you guys. That's actually not hard at all. I don't know why so many devs have a hard time with this. I enjoy it. I enjoy communicating. Sometimes it's uncomfortable. Sometimes people in the community call me out on oh my God. Oh my God. How long was I kicked for? Oh, Ryan's banging on my door. Back on. Oh, it's all the wonderful things I was sharing. All right. Well, Cayman, thanks for joining us. I'm going to go back. So what was the last thing I said? Ryan stepped away. I think Ryan did kick me. I was getting into the overworld. Did you guys hear me say anything about the overworld? Because that's what I started talking about. Yeah. So, okay. Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, like there's a lot to share about Overworld, but it integrates really seamlessly with our game. And I actually have my whole spiel recorded so like I'm recording my voice separately. So even though I got kicked, my whole answer is there. So I'll leave it for now, but I can come back to it if you guys want to hear more about the overworld and how that functions. Because I don't know what I said, what you guys heard. I don't want to sit here and repeat myself. So I'll let it go. I did move on to thanking Chaotic Demon for, that comment there. That means so much to us. it's difficult to map out a game and say, oh, it's coming out in or July next year. It's difficult to say when exactly we're going to have a demo. Even our Kickstarter demo, for us to say it's going to be ready right after our Kickstarter is a challenge. It's, there's a lot of unknowns there, and there's so many moving pieces. The bigger the team you have. But I will say this, what's not hard? What's not hard is being transparent and being open with the community and letting them know what's going on. I don't understand why so many devs have a hard time with this. I think it's just like, it's more about creating the habit of communicating than anything else. Yes, it can be uncomfortable. Yes, we might share something that people don't like, but that, that is an opportunity for us to do one of two things. Either improve our messaging on the thing. So we might share something and somebody's like, I don't understand this, or I don't really like this. And then it's like, oh, we didn't share that very well because they're obviously, they don't understand what we're creating, or they do understand and it's not working for them for another reason. And then we can address that. We can fix it, improve the game. So the one thing that I can promise to you guys, I can't promise and say guaranteed this game's coming out in July 2020, or guaranteed we're going to have a Kickstarter or our Kickstarter demo September 20th. But what I can promise is that you guys will know where we're at, what we're up to, what we're doing, what challenges we face, and why things are coming out sooner or later or whatever. So that's 100% really important to us. And we're so grateful to have this community to be able to do that with. So, will this game have continual content updates after release? Yeah. So we actually have a roadmap of features that lead us to our launch date and beyond. And the reason why we do that is a few reasons. There's a few reasons why we do that. One is these features are prioritized, and we know that there's a bunch of places where we could slice the game and say, this is a good enough game that people are going to love and launch it. But then continue adding content post-launch. I think I can speak for the whole team and say that we think World of Antera is going to be a game that people are going to want to play for a long time. That's the experience that we're committed to creating, and having a roadmap of features mapped out now that allows us to continue developing post-launch is really important, sort of component of creating that type of game. So we're going to definitely keep doing that. Yeah, the media that comes with our Kickstarter. So this is this is you know this is also something that's really exciting for us to be designing and um, working towards is, the goods, the digital goods, the physical goods. Like, at the end of the day, a Kickstarter is an opportunity to fund a game. It's an opportunity to fund World of Antera and to help us and join us on this journey. And it's up to us to make that funding opportunity as rewarding for the community as possible. So, it's funny. There's some things we post and we're like, I'm ordering that. Like, I want that kit of physical goods or whatever it happens to be. So I'm really thrilled to share that. I can't get into it all right now. There's still a few details we're working out. It's really important to us that we do it with integrity, that we know everything, whether it's the cost or the effort involved in the things that we are offering in our tiers. But, that's just, you guys can have confidence that when you do see our tiers and our rewards that, we've put that time and that effort in to understand how exactly we're going to achieve those. But it's looking really good. Let me see if there's other questions I missed. Will decisions in the story impact the world around you like Skyrim? Yeah, that's having the player have an impact on the world is important to us. We have a number of really great ideas how things, how outcomes come about, and divergent results for things like both main quest and side quests. And that's something we're going to continue to explore. We think it's important. We also are exploring NPC relationships. I'm not talking necessarily like dating, finding a wife or husband in the game. Although that is something that's important to us, because I think that's just a fun role playing element, not required to play the game though. Kind of like Skyrim, you could with I think the Hearthstone add-on. I can't remember what it was called, but you could get a wife and then they would be at your house, or husband, whatever, and they would like they could like cook you food, or give you money, or fix up the place and stuff like that. Not You don't need to do that. You don't need to do that. In fact, I know Ryan played Skyrim and never built custom home, whereas I loved that part of the game and built my homes all around Skyrim. Um, yeah, so but even just like having rapport with someone and being able to have an impact on that rapport. So like, maybe there's a merchant and you find out something that merchant really likes, and you can actually bring gifts to him, and eventually he starts giving you a discount on his goods at the store, like that kind of stuff. It's really small, minor, but it gives that player that sense of like, I'm molding this world. This world's learning who I am, and it's having an impact on how people relate to me and stuff like that. So there's certainly lots that we can do. And I think, as we develop and be able to start showcasing these things, that's one of the things that we're going to want to showcase, is how players have an impact on the world. I will say that our dialogue system, when you see it, it's really unique. And on the surface, it may look like, it's not quite as like robust as a Skyrim where I have these like detailed answers I can say to things. But I actually believe that our dialogue system opens up way more opportunities than a more rigid linear dialogue system you would get from a modern RPG. So I'm really, yeah, yeah, super. Yeah, I love it. Cayman's actually a developer who, developed the dialogue system that I designed. And man, we worked on that. We worked hard on that. Hey, Cayman, like, um, totally. Yeah, we made that. When did we make it? We made that prototype like 3 years ago, maybe longer. Man, so um, yeah, this you guys will know the dialogue system feature showcase. That video is going to be coming out very soon, maybe in a week. I think we have Sam in the audience. Sam is our audio guy. He's doing all our audio, so he's been chomping at the. He already has done a full pass on the UI audio for dialogue, and it was so good. But now we're giving him a new video with new sound direction that we've been defining over the last few months, and he's going to be doing another pass on it. But that video should be done probably by the end of this week, maybe a little longer. We'll see. But I'm super excited to share that. Um, what else do we have here? Mm, you could hypothetically traverse from one extreme of a content to the opposite, just in a local map without using the overworld. Like a fast travel system. So yeah, we do have a in-world mechanism for traveling that will have you save the time of actually walking or sailing or riding a horseback, because we are going to have those things as well. And there are some other travel ways, including an in-world mechanism for fast travel. So it's not just like clicking on the map and going there. It's actually like an in-world feature. So what I think this is, you guys are really gonna like, this is gonna come really apparent soon. Is we don't like UI. We don't like UI, and our the stuff that happens in our game happens in world, like almost almost like entirely our UI or interactions at all. Well, I was going to make a joke about automating it, but I'll spare everybody. Um, yeah. So like having like, it would be easy for us to have, there is a map in the game. You can open the map, look at the world. It'd be easy for us to let you click on that map and travel somewhere. Um, but it was an opportunity to create a narrative feature, right? Like there is something in the world that allows me to fast travel. I can find or unlock that thing, and it acts the same way, but it's tied into progression, it's tied into exploration, and so yeah. When we share our interface video, when you guys see the interface video and the way that we've built our interface, I think you're going to understand what I'm talking about when I say we don't like UI. We want it to be in-world stuff that makes sense to World of Antera. That's something that also, I think, guys, we can probably have that video done this week as well, right? The interface video. I think we're ready to do it. Like, I could probably have it recorded today and have Sam get the audio in the next couple of days. So I don't know. We'll see. But that and the dialogue video are coming out very soon. Star Citizen. Yes. Oh my God, Star Citizen. What a train wreck that game. I backed that game, by the way. And you know what? Every like maybe once a year I load it up and I just feel this like, I don't know what the word is. Disappointment. I feel like as a game designer, game developer, I feel like a disappointed father. And you know what? Listen, the gentleman at the head of that who did the Wing Commander series, I loved Wing Commander as a young person. When I heard of Star System, I was super excited, but oh my God, it's just been such a train wreck, and I'm not convinced it's ever going to get back on the rails, but we'll see. The overworld. I'm trying to read this here. Oh, Ryan. Crafting. Sorry, I keep realizing you guys can't see my screen. I'm like highlighting things, but crafting, yes. So yeah, there's what does it say? It says crafting, if yes, useful to supplement ourselves with equipment, but vendors are still important, or is crafting essential like some RPGs these days? No, crafting is not this gating mechanism where you have to find the right things and then unlock this next item, or it's not. Crafting's more free flowing, right? However, resource gathering is tied to our upgrade system. It's just not like you go to a crafting table and then upgrade the next gear. That's not how it works. What you're going to be crafting is like, you might be crafting food. You might be crafting like arrows and ammo and stuff like that. You might be crafting things you can use in like consumables or one-time use items in combat, things that might give you an upper hand on a more difficult enemy. Those are the type of things you're going to be crafting. You might be able to craft like temporary enhancements to gear. But an interesting way, and I did share this in a previous Fireside, but an interesting way in which we're going to have upgrading of items or unlocking of new items in our game isn't through a crafting system, although it's actually similar. It's through a merchant system. So, one of the things that most RPGs struggle with is how do you balance an economy around like selling, gear to merchants. And this is always something that always strikes me as odd in games. I buy a short sword, it's 250 gold. And then I go back and I bring a short sword back. It's the same short sword and they buy it for like 3 gold. And I'm like, that's just not how economies work. Or like selling feathers or whatever resource you can go and gather and sell. Designers have to keep their game in balance, and they can't just have you become this rich guy by running and scouring and stealing everything and selling it. But we've done 2 things, and this ties into the crafting is, if there's a merchant and the merchant, like let's say the bow maker, he sells bows or she sells bows and arrows. And, but then she's got this like upgraded arrow that does more damage at long range, or maybe she's got a fire arrow, but you can't purchase them. And she says to you, I don't have enough materials to start producing those, but if you bring me those materials, I'll start to sell them. So then she has like a minimum threshold where if you bring her enough of the certain type of feathers or resources, you sell it to her, so you get money for doing it, and then she unlocks that new gear, which then you could buy from her. And you can keep selling that stuff to her, but she won't need any more at a certain point. She'll tell you, I don't need any more of those. Or maybe she's like, I don't really need any more, but I'll buy them at a discounted rate. So now it gets cheaper. So you could buy that short-handed sword, and then you could go back and you could sell that short-handed sword for maybe like 30% the cost, something that's more realistic in the real world. But she may not buy continuously all the short swords from you because she doesn't need more short swords to sell them. So she might buy like 3 or 4 short swords at the sort of full price. But then when you go back, she's like, oh, I don't really need any more, but you know what? I'm willing to give you 10 gold for that instead of the 30 gold I gave, or the 100 gold I gave you last time, or something like that. So there's like the, a meaningful way to actually integrate not just the crafting and unlocking of stuff, but also just the economy in general. And the other thing I want to say about crafting is I always wanted the game to be about the world, not about the player necessarily. So it's not like you, the player, are learning all this crafting technology and you're like unlocking crafting tools. It's like, no, there's merchants in the world that do that. That's their profession. And so go to them and get them to do it. And, that's something that's, I'm really keen to, to realize in our game and start to use that to balance our economy. I also say this, and nobody's asked about this yet, but we do plan to have some building in the game. It's like you can build your own little house or your own little village potentially. But even then, you're not the one building it. Like, you're going to go find builders in the world and you're going to say, hey, I want you to build a chicken coop on my property. And then they're going to tell you, oh, I need these resources then. And so you're going to be tasked with getting the resources and the money to your homestead so that they can build it for you. And again, it's like, it's really the world, right? It's about the world and the characters in the world. It's not just simply about you. It's about how you interact with these people. So, yeah. Yeah, that's probably one of the top 3 questions we get asked. Um, there is going to be co-op in the game. So we've designed the multiplayer co-op mechanics to integrate seamlessly with our single player. And you guys might have read the FAQ, and that language is already in the FAQ. But so here's what I can say is our multiplayer works seamlessly with our single player, meaning you can be playing your single player experience and have friends join you. And then they can go and you can join them and vice versa. That's really important to us. So it's almost taking a page out of like Dark Souls or Elden Ring in a way, but not just like randomly dropping in with people. These are actually your friends. And to be able to link with them and see their progression in their game, and then come see your progression and trade items with them and engage in combat with them. And then not potentially, I want to have, world events that happen just for multiplayer, just for co-op, so that there's these events that happen kind of like Ghosts of Tsushima, where you can go and like engage in these multiplayer sort of battles. But it won't be like that. It won't be in our game. You won't go somewhere and talk to somebody and then it like loads you into the multiplayer arena. It'll be like, no, you're in the world. Your friends are there too. And then some event triggers and you guys both run over there and then you can engage in that sort of like thing on your own. But here's the other thing, the other sort of thing that I need to mention about co-op multiplayer is our focus is on the single player. Because we know our multiplayer integrates seamlessly with the single player, our focus is on the single player. We don't want to get distracted with that right now. We want to have the best possible single player experience. And but we will be integrating multiplayer in phases during that. So the first phase, and we have a great backend developer who's doing the research on this right now. One of the tools in which we're planning to use to balance our game is with combat. So combat's a tricky thing because to balance combat properly, you need to have enemies to fight. And in order to have enemies to fight, you need to have good AI. If you don't have good AI, you can't really balance it properly because you're not really getting that experience of challenge. Now, we do have AI already in the game, but to take the pressure off, the front-end developers on creating AI early on, because you actually don't want to get too in-depth with AI because you need to understand what all the abilities are and the attack types and like the ecosystem mechanics need to be factored into how you design the AI. So what we're planning to do is we're planning to have multiplayer combat built in really early on so that we can fight each other here in the studio and use that to balance the combat. So although we're focused on the single player, we are going to be weaving in this multiplayer and hopefully at some point be able to share that with the community early. But I can't say exactly when we're going to be showcasing our multiplayer stuff. So there was another question. So Prince asked about walking. I could walk that distance too if I want to. So yeah, you can walk. This is a tricky thing to explain without showing you in the actually in the game. You can walk on the overworld, and as you walk and move around, or even just stand still in the overworld, the time moves a lot faster. Like the sun will set, night will come. Night and day is an important part of our game, but you can go. So I could move like sort of 10 steps on the overworld, which I freely can. Like you don't move like on a grid. You just kind of freely run. Or I could do it in the zoomed area and go from kind of area to area that way as well. But we have some great UI to sort of help establish for the player where they are in relation to the overworld, where they entered in. So let's say for instance, I was in a town and I got a quest, or somebody said, hey, in the shrine you're looking for, the tower or the cave entrance is in the forest by the mountains up there. And they give you this rough area and the name of the forest. So you go running over there and you're like, oh, I know where that forest is. So you run over there, but that forest is like 10, like sort of 10 tiles wide. You go into that forest and now you have to wander around, explore it. But that's what you do. You wouldn't go back to the overworld, move over, go back in, go and then look around. Oh, it's not here. Go back to the overworld, move over, go back in, look around. That's not what you do. You would go to that forest, you'd go in that forest, and then you just wander around that forest without going back to the overworld until you found your objective. And once you found it and you're done, then you could go back to the overworld and run back to the town and move on. So it's kind of like this hybrid. The overworld, I can tell you, you're not going to play the game never going to the overworld. It's just not how it works. You're also not going to play the game going in every single space. That's also not how it works. It's kind of like if you think of other overworld games, like Red Dead Redemption is a good example. In Red Dead Redemption, there's a lot of things you'll see when you're riding along one path or road. You'll see like a burned out hut to the side. You'll see a beautiful river with a waterfall, and you'll be inclined to go over there and like, oh, there's a waterfall over there. There must be something. And you run down there and you realize, oh no, it's just a river and waterfall. So you go back to the path and you go further, and then you see that burned out hut and you're like, oh, there's got to be something over there. It's a burned out hut. So you run over there. You realize, oh no, it's just a burned out hut, and you go back to the path. And then you run a little further and then you get alerted to something. There's like an NPC off to the side who's like calling for help. And so then you ride over there and you talk to them, and then you get some little side quest happens. Our game functions more like that, where, yeah, you can wander around anywhere and there's reasons to do it. You may just be out picking, resources off the ground or harvesting stuff, and you can, roughly where to do that. So you just go and do that anywhere. But the purpose of the overworld and the zoomed in locations is not to go and like fill in maps in every single section. It's not how our game's designed. So again, it's difficult to get into these specifics when we're just talking about it without showing it. So, if yes, totally. So I just, in the past firesides, people have asked questions, and I've been like, I can't really say too much about that, but I never feel great about that. Like I want to give an answer. So I just, I do my best to explain, and then with a caveat of wait until you see it. Like, don't judge it just off what I've said. Wait until you see it. And we'd love to hear your thoughts on it too. It's not, if you have anything to say. So yeah, so that's kind of how it works, is being on the lookout. We have that's the experience we're building, is on the lookout for points of interest, things you'll see you might spy something from the overworld, be like, that looks like something should be hidden. Probably something is hidden in there. Like, there might be a nook in the mountains where a river goes, and you're like, there must be something over there. You go over there and you find a cave, and, we want that type of experience. Hugely important. So, I have a hard time imagining World of Funding, World of Antera with $1 million funding, let alone $100 million. But um, the one thing I'm clear in this day and age, in this world, it's like you need money to fund this game. So I'm just commenting on Voxel's comment here about imagining World of Antera with Star Citizen level funding, I guess. Yeah, you need money. You need to advertise your game. It's really difficult to get the word out there. We try, like, we post on Facebook and Twitter and Facebook groups, and just little bits of trickle come in. But what really happens for us is when we run ads, that's when we really get noticed, and lots of people become interested in our game. But for a small studio like us, it's just not sustainable. So, listen, our goal right now, just so you guys know, our goal is to get 100,000 American. That's like our funding goal. So if we hit that, we're super happy. Like that's money that we can use to really flesh out our demo and get, one of the top-notch publishers in the world. If we get 200,000, 300,000, like that's, just lets us make the game we want to make even longer. But whatever happens during Kickstarter, this game's being made. We're not stubborn. There's a lot of really great publishers out there that are interested in our game. We're confident that we can get one of them. But at the end of the day, our dream is to self-publish this game and be able to make it ourselves. And in order to do that, we need to find funding in any way we can. And Kickstarter is just one of those opportunities. So whatever we get with it is what we get with it, and we're going to be happy. So you guys will get the game no matter what. Thanks for the comments, Prince. What were you say, Ryan? How will death and defeat be handled? This is interesting you asked that question, because actually Cayman wanted us to host a fireside specifically on that topic. Cayman, how did you word it again? Right. Um, so we have a few ideas for death. Currently, we're not planning to punish the player, other than the fact that they're gonna sort of respawn at a specific place in the world. I'm sure Mob Dweep, because I know a bit about you, that you're familiar with Ultima and how you would sort of respawn in the main castle with Lord British. He would basically resurrect you and send you back out on your journey. That's not exactly how our system works, but it's something, kind of along those lines. We have a few ideas that we're not sure about yet. So just respawning you at a specific location can be kind of punishing enough. Can be annoying, because you have to go back to wherever you were and try and tackle that again. Obviously, you might want to restock up or get some more powerful consumables to overcome whatever challenge that had you die. But we have other ideas. There is an idea about having you kind of turn into a spirit. We also have an idea of a spirit realm that might be tied into the multiplayer. There's conversations about, for instance, whether you drop your loot and you respawn and have to go back and get it. But I can tell you that right now we're leaning towards just no punishment, and dying is just punishment enough. So, it's the whole spirit realm idea is really cool, because there's it adds some meaning to death. Because if the only place you can go to the spirit world is in death, and there's some progression that happens there, or something that you can uncover more in narrative or something like that, and all of a sudden, dying is this is this feature of the game, and I kind of like that. So I'm not sure. We'll have to come back to that. But for now, we're designing around you being resurrected. So, and Cayman would like to actually, and I agree with him, have a fireside where we just talk into that and dig into that and talk about the games where we like how they handle dying and punishment or failure, and risk versus reward in general. So yeah, we'll do that. Yeah, so prices will rise as you, yes, Voxel asked How about inflation, rising prices the longer you play? No. We're going to keep real world depressing reality out of World of Antera as much as possible. Although World of Antera actually is really inspired by the world, and it intentionally so. Like, we're not trying to push any messages on people. That's not what we're doing, but it's just a great source of inspiration in the real world. So but the economy is going to be under our control. So unlike the economy in this world. No money printers, Voxel. Sorry about that. So the A Gamer asked, is there any kind of skill tree, either an actual one or similar structure progression systems? Yeah, it's a good question. We don't have necessarily a skill tree, although how we visualize it from a UI standpoint, that can change a lot between now and where, like, when our first demo comes out, the first public demo. But so there are like branches that you can head down with your progression for not just your character but other characters as well. So it's just that the player character will likely have all the branches to go down, whereas the classes in your party members will have select branches they can head down. So if you think of Skyrim and how Skyrim has, like, the like sword and shield and bow, and then that bow branches into a few areas, that's kind of how we envision our game. You're going to go to trainers. You're not just going to level up and then just have a UI where you pick your sort of like where you want to progress. You're going to go to trainers because, again, we want to make it about the world. And so you're going to know what trainers you want to go to, and you're going to be able to choose, where you invest your training, and sort of craft the character that you want to craft. And you could balance between a few branches or focus on one. I think definitely for the player character, you'll be able to max out numerous branches. That's ideally what I'd like to see. Same with your party members, you'll be able to max out their branches too. Whether you can unlock new branches for other party members or whatnot, I don't really know. That's definitely a possibility. But I don't want to speak too far along that. We do have a bunch of skills and abilities designed out. We have designed how you're going to engage with those. But in terms of how that balances with the overall ecosystem of the game, that's kind of yet to be seen. And that may drive us to have you have access to more or less or whatnot. So we're going to have to still figure that stuff out. Yeah, like Stardew Valley. Stardew Valley is a great game. I love Stardew Valley, and Stardew Valley and games like that I found very inspirational for taking on World of Antera. I look at a game like Stardew Valley and I'm like, what? One developer made this game, and I just think that's like a big deal for a lot of indie game developers. And there's some systems in there that definitely were inspired by. But yeah, that's a good comparison for how we're talking about building, doing the building and stuff like that in our game. So Chaotic Demon, since there is co-op, I'm getting this on PS4, PS5, and Steam. I will say this is a challenge. So Chaotic Demon, the challenge is that we haven't answered this yet. Can we handle cross-platform co-op? I mean, we can. We've developed cross-platform. We've developed multiplayer games. The problem isn't on our ability to do it. Our backend that we're going to be using, as far as I know, the backend we're using, it supports it fully. And I don't think it's going to be a problem. The problem is with the platforms themselves. So Sony, Xbox, as much as they talk a big game about, we support crossplay, they actually don't let everybody do it. So I don't know all the details on this. I've been told it's extremely expensive to get them to allow you to do it, and B, you have to have a really big game, or they just won't let you even start. So that could change. It could have changed since last I was sort of educated on this topic. It could change during the development of our game. I don't really know. I just know, I guess what I'm saying is there's some things we don't know about that yet that we need to figure out. And when we start talking to the console platforms themselves, we will find out more. So I am in communication with Nintendo. They're super stoked about our game. I'm not in communication with Sony or Xbox yet, but I plan to be very soon. And I should be able to have an answer to that, at that time. So, ideally that's the case, is that we're cross-platform and you can play with anybody. So yes. Yeah, well, Prince, I see your question about copying the questions down. I'm going to keep going. So, this recording is going to be shared. So, for those of you who can't stick around for whatever reason, you can come back and listen to the last little bit. But, these questions, I think definitely we're going to be adding some to our FAQ. I think that's probably a really good idea. The other thing I was thinking about is actually, like, we don't have like a production or marketing team. So these videos, I record them and then I just post them, kind of the raw video. But ideally the post video has like at 2 minutes, this was discussed. At 1 hour, 30 minutes, this was discussed. And actually people can browse sort of like a tables of contents of the Fireside and then go and hop in and listen to it. That's just a lot of effort to go and listen to them. So it's probably something we should be doing in real time. I'm trying to see if there's any other questions here. Replayability. Prince says, thanks for all the questions, guys. But thanks, Prince, for your questions as well. Yeah, replayability is a really interesting one. In fact, we were talking about it. You and I were talking about it this morning. Replayability is an interesting one. So the way that we're doing our game is we have designed a number of procedural systems. Some of those procedural systems we designed with just because we wanted the game to do some of the heavy lifting for us. So it's not all on the designers, the artists to do everything. So like we have a procedural system for handling character animations and stuff so that Ryan and the art team don't have to necessarily hand animate every iteration of every type of character that you can have. Character customization is a whole nother ball game. But um but like, how the games, we're talking about some of the world being procedurals generated. That procedural generation is built off the overworld map. So the game knows if I walk into a forest that's like an edge forest, it knows to generate an edge forest area. If I go into an area along the shore, it knows to generate a beach area in the correct direction to where I entered in. That procedural generation is going to be unique for every player to a certain extent. Then if we have now I'm going to get into a bit of a concept range, and what I'm about to say isn't necessarily exactly how the game's going to go, but this is how we've been building the game. So the things that you will find in the overworld, like a cave entrance or a dungeon entrance or a bandit camp or maybe a hermit farm or whatever it happens to be, that those be procedurally placed in the game. So every region and every area in the game has a whole bunch of these features that a designer hasn't necessarily said this is specifically where I want it, and will be procedurally placed. So that means that when somebody comes into our game or starts a new game, their experience will be different than the previous time they played. Some of the things they find will be different. We've taken that concept and we've gone even a bit further where we're like, okay, well, what if this tavern keeper named Bob has information about the dungeon the player needs as part of the main quest? And what if that information isn't necessarily specific to Bob, even though when you talk to Bob, it feels like it's his information? And instead, what if that's procedurally placed on Bob? So if I go and talk to somebody, I go in the town, I say, hey, I'm looking for this dungeon. And then somebody's like, oh, I heard Bob talking about it at the tavern. I go and talk to Bob. Bob tells me. But what if on another playthrough, it's not Bob, it's whatever, Sarah the farmer. And so I go in the town, I ask people like, hey, have you heard this dungeon? And eventually somebody's like, oh, I heard Sarah talking about it. She owns the farm in the whatever in that area. And so you go and talk to Sarah. So we have these ideas, and we have built the game to do this. The question that we're asking ourselves is, how much more value does it add to the player? And so we may have that be, we may have all these systems in here, but we have a handcrafted game for your first playthrough, and then New Game Plus, if you do it again, randomizes all that stuff. Or maybe there's a setting where you can choose to have it randomized, meaning, hey, I'm choosing to play this game and not be able to use a walkthrough online. Like the walkthrough may tell me what I need to do, but not where it is. So if Bob tells you where the dungeon is and that dungeon's not in the same place every playthrough, I can't just wander around looking for the dungeon. I could, but that wouldn't be a good use of my time or my resources. So I need to actually engage in the mechanics of the game, find the person who has that information, find the location of the dungeon, and then go to the dungeon, do the dungeon. So that's kind of what we're playing around with, but I don't like at the end of the day, I want to honor the player experience. I think we all do. And we don't want to put a system in the game like that if it takes away from the player experience in any way. Because at the end of the day, we want people to have a handcrafted gaming experience. We think that's far more valuable. I think that the modern gaming has got too far away from this handcrafted experience. If you think of old Zelda games, or where you like look and you see a cave over the river, but you can't get over the river, and you're like, God, there's got to be something wonderful in that cave, and you finally get across the river and get to that cave, and sure enough, you find something wonderful. And then there's the Skyrim experience where you go into a dungeon and you see this chest shining behind this portcullis, and you're like, oh my God, I can't figure out how to open this door, but I see that chest. There's got to be something great in it. And then finally you figure out how to open this gate, and you get in there and you open the chest, and there's like some stupid sword in it that like all the other chests. And the reason why that's like that is because it's not handcrafted. It was not hand placed there by a designer. It's a procedural system that's can sometimes be good and sometimes bad. And it's mapped to your progression. And so, yeah, it's a bit of a balancing act, but at the end of the day, what we're committed to creating is a handcrafted experience. So. Yes. Yeah. Um, will there be, this is Link with a big long number. Will there be somewhat of a steampunk theme in the game somewhere? That's actually a really interesting question. So is he still here in the audience? Yeah, you are in the audience. So yeah, so man, this is, we haven't actually talked about this at all, but well, okay, first of all, we have designed an area that's kind of got a steampunk-ish theme to it, but it's not likely to stay necessarily like that, because World of Antera is this world. It's like there's a time in their existence. There's a history to it, and we want it all to make sense. But what's interesting about this question is there's a sci-fi quality to Skyrim, or sorry, Skyrim. There's not a sci-fi quality to Skyrim. There's a sci-fi quality to World of Antera, and it's not necessarily a quality that everyone's going to pick up on. It is weaved into the lore. It's weaved into the way the world's built. I'm a big science buff. We talk about it a lot in the studio, and there's going to be some sort of Easter eggs, but even just the way that magic's created in the game is based on some scientific theory. And we've taken that and we've even injected it into like our game in certain ways. So like our music, there's this like hint of like almost sci-fi synth in the music itself. But other than these little threads and these little themes in the game, it's a fantasy game. And we actually want it to feel like comfort food in a certain way. This is something that I've used a lot, like the comfort food of gaming. We want World of Antera to feel familiar on one hand, because we believe that familiarity, that sense of this being something comfortable, we believe that the innovation that we're doing, because you guys have heard us say this before, where we're like, oh, this is innovative and the dialogue's innovative and the combat, and like it's like, okay, you're trying to make everything innovative. That's kind of how we are as developers. We love challenging ourselves. We love creating new things that haven't been created before. And I'm just, as a designer, I'm just wired that way. But I realize that if we're going to do stuff like that, we have to also do things that are familiar, because you don't just want to have this jarring experience. So, I think we struck the right balance there. I believe we have, but it's something we're going to continue coming back to and making sure that we're sort of hitting the right beats in the game. So totally. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And that's for all of our systems, whether they're retro inspired or modern inspired. It's like it's more of a solution to an experience, if that makes sense. Like, we're committed to making an experience with World of Antera, and that's a problem. And we solve those problems by um, looking for inspiration and examples of it, but also creating a unique experience within our game. So it's like a multi-leveled system, but it's not, like Cayman said, we don't believe that you have to innovate to engage people. We don't think that that's necessarily what everyone wants. I'm a huge Dark Souls fan. Love those games. I know Cayman is as well. And they're not trying to reinvent the wheel. They're just polishing and improving. And then they add small little things here, but it makes for a great experience. So, that's definitely on our mind as well, is, we have designs for things and we've scrapped them because we're like, no, that doesn't work, or that doesn't support this, or, at the end of the day, it has to be in honor of the experience that we're committed to creating. So, yeah. Um, that's true. The Dwemer. Yeah. The machines. That's a good point. You're right. Touche. Um, yeah, and you know what? I mean, with the way our game is and our lore is, there. I don't want to give any spoilers away, so I'm just. There's surprises. There's surprises in our game. I'll say that. um, but okay, so let me see here. Have you guys taken any inspiration from No Man's Sky? And if so, what have you taken? It's probably my favorite game ever. That and Stardew. Yeah, it's I'm actually a big fan of No Man's Sky, and a big fan of Stardew Valley, and I know a number of us at the studio are big fans of Stardew Valley, um, including one of our other game designers, at least one of them. But um, No Man's Sky, when it first came out, I remember feeling like they they tried to make something too big and that they failed, and I didn't buy the game right away. I bought it slightly later on because I was reading the updates and I was like, holy crap, they're really listening and they're improving this game. That's probably the biggest takeaway I would have from Skyrim um, with regards to World of Antera, is that you know we as a team need to be committed to the long run with World of Antera, because we believe in it. We believe in what we're creating, and we may make mistakes along the way, but we have to be willing to address those mistakes and improve upon the platform that we're creating. And No Man's Sky just did such a great job of that. Continually adding content and continually making it exciting. Um, no Man's Sky is an interesting one because some people will point to our system and say, oh, you have like this endlessly explorable world that uses procedural generation and handcrafted. Um, no Man's Sky is far more procedurally generated than what we're doing, like to the 10th degree. And that has, because that's how the game's made, there is a number of systems that they need to create mechanics and features that prop up that procedural generation that work really well in No Man's Sky. And so our game, I mean, I can't point to a specific mechanic or feature and say that's something that is inspired by No Man's Sky, but other than just the fact that they've been committed to and dedicated to that game, and it's been a big success as a result. That dedication has caused success, created success for them. So, okay, so does the game use money like gold coins? If so, those need to be minted somewhere too. Oh, I see. Money printers. Yes, there's going to be a currency in the game. It's is going to be coins. I can say that. Probably gold coins. Um, and I personally would love there to be a mint in the game. I would love you to go somewhere and be like, oh, these are where the coins are made in the world. I think that's like not a difficult thing to do. It's going to require some art, but it's not easy. It's not difficult to weave that into the world. And that's an example of bringing things that are obvious to the world that just create a more deep experience for the players. I would love everything to have a source in the world. If you find something that's made, it's like you could find where it was made. And so there very well be some machinery that prints coins in the mint. Yes, we do have the potential for gangs making counterfeit coins. That'd be actually interesting. Yeah, sheer Voxel's right about the perseverance and dedication. I haven't talked about this too much on our firesides, but just because you brought that up, this is something that this team has shown time and time again is their perseverance and dedication. Morale has never been higher at 81 Monkeys. The level of productivity has never been higher at 81 Monkeys. Um, and part of that's due to the situations that we had to overcome or persevere, the times where we ran out of money and people had to go on employment insurance, and or when COVID hit and our funding dried up, and we've all stayed together through all of that, through all these ups and downs. And boy, there has been some ups and downs, but we're now working on our dream game, and I think all of us, we look at World of Antera and with confidence say that this is games getting made the way that we want it to, because we know we can do it because we've done it in the past. So let me see if there's another question here. Not sure if this was answered already, but since music is such a big factor for me in my fave games, Octopath, Witcher 3, loved Witcher 3, To the Moon. What are some inspiration concepts that are currently guiding your guys' vision for music? That's a really good question, Wookie. Are you still in the crowd, Wookie? Yeah, you are there. Sam's here too. So Sam's our sound guy. Sam, if you want, you can join the stage. There's Sam. So yeah, I will say that inspiration for our sound design comes from a number of places. And then I'll let Sam speak about this too. Ryan probably also would love to speak on this too, but we knew we wanted authentic sounds. Like, we didn't want really gamey, sort of crushed 8-bit sounds. We could have gone that route. There's a lot of games where that works really well. We wanted authentic sounds. We wanted there to be this natural ambient feel to the game, and we wanted our music to fit seamlessly in with that ambient. So the world is part of the music almost. But going beyond that, we also wanted to have a bit of the retro synth sound in there. Again, I mentioned a hint of sci-fi. Our sound ends up being somewhat unique, but also really familiar at the same time. So there are a number of games that we look at, old Ultima soundtracks. We look at Zelda Breath of the Wild and how that music kind of comes in and goes out, and how powerful that can be in certain moments of gameplay. A game like Witcher that has a real authentic medieval vibe. I love walking into a tavern or a city, and how the music establishes that sense of where you are and stuff like that. So these are all important things to us, but we're still doing some exploration. But I think The last thing I'll say before I pass it off to Sam is our world is built with music in mind. So we actually have come up with instruments for each region, and we're like, this instrument is the main instrument of this region, and we bring those instruments together in various interesting ways. But the great thing about having instruments for regions is not only is there a narrative and a lore component to it, but it's we can lean on that to define the sound in each region. So there is this soundscape that, as you travel the world, will evolve and change. And yeah, Sam, anything you want to add? Yeah, you sound great. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, so some of you, well, I don't think any of you will know this, but Sam actually one of the first games we made as 80 Monkeys was called Sudoku Scramble. It was essentially a work for hire game, although it's our game, but it was a mobile game. It was an opportunity for us to create a team and define our processes and all that stuff. Sam did the theme song for that game with real instruments, and that sort of started the journey of us working with Sam. So he's been with us since then, and I don't know how many you've probably made, like 30 tracks for us now, maybe, like quite a few, or at least even versions. Yeah. Um, right. Yep. Yep. We have so this is a bit of a spoiler, Kickstarter spoiler. We do plan on offering a soundtrack, and it's going to include a lot of this music that we've worked on together as a team, and Sam's worked on, that is both in the game and not in the game. And I think it's just really cool to be able to share this journey of music that we went on to get to the point where we are now. So anyone who listens to that is going to be able to sort of like hear that progression. I think it's going to be a really neat thing to share. Some of the songs on that soundtrack may be super rough, like not polished or mastered, but there'll be a lot of mastered compositions. And the way that we've been working too is Sam will create a track and master it, but it's like a full on like soundtrack, like a full on song with a start and an end. It's full of instruments, and it probably won't ever be in the game in that way. like Sam will strip out instruments and weave them into the game experience, and we'll use that in interesting ways. But so you'll get to, in the soundtrack, we'll get to hear those full versions as well as the kind of stripped down game ones. So cool. Thanks, Sam. Um, let me see here. So I had another question here from, I think it's Dumpling. Um, although it looks like maybe it's Dumpling. They look like dumplings, but anyways, asking about armor, weapon system, and just inventory in general. So this is actually something, I don't know. Are you still in the audience? Let's see here. Yes, you are. Okay, great. So this is something that we're going to be releasing in our interface video this week, is how equipment works and how our interface works. There's sort of two components to that. So you can equip weapons, a shield, armor, like helmet, shoes, cape. You can equip weapons on your back or in your hands. All of that will show up on your character in the world, which is something that's really unique about our hand animated pixel art. Is there's no other game that we've been able to find that, and this is a system that Ryan designed, but there's no other game that we've been able to find that has the level of customization mixed with hand animated pixel art. So that's something you can expect to see, and we will release a feature video on that. We'll also, yeah, I I think that's such a great idea. Yeah, absolutely. And then the other thing is yeah, I think when we're able to showcase it in a feature video or some gifs or whatever, however we end up showcasing it, I think when we release that at the same time that we do a fireside and that you do a fireside on it. Yeah. Um, yeah. So that's one side. The other side is the inventory system. And that's what's good. Well, that's what we're going to release this week. So this week we're going to release our inventory system. It is fucking awesome. That's the first time I swore ever on a fireside. Um, I I love our inventory system. I also actually love swearing a lot, but yeah. um, um, anyways, yeah, it's really cool. I can't wait to show it. Cayman, who's no longer on the stage with us, did Cayman leave? He's in the audience now, but another thing came and worked on, and it's just awesome. So you can expect to see that this week, a video that showcases how inventory management and stuff like that is controlled in our game, what the interface is like that. So yeah, lots to look forward to there. Um, where are we? This is officially the longest fireside we've ever done, by the way. But I'm pushing through. So thanks you guys for hanging around. Um, let's see here. Anything else? Did I? Thanks, A Gamer. A Gamer did play Sudoku Scramble. I think even you like got to the max rank in Sudoku Scramble, didn't you? Yeah, that was exciting. Thanks for checking that out. it's a, it's kind of we're a quirky multiplayer Sudoku game, but it was a lot of fun to work on. Oh, Dave just downloaded it. There you go. I'm not trying to promote it, but we don't really make very much. I think it makes like $200 a month, so we don't really make a ton of money off of it. But it's fun if you want to check it out. If you have any, you know what? Actually, whether you like Sudoku or not, it's fun. I think we have a pretty good onboarding in it. But yeah, there's some bugs. I don't think there's bugs with the core gameplay. I think it's more the multiplayer is not great, like the way that you link with people, and there's some other quirkiness. But yeah, check it out. Sounds like we've answered every question. Any last minute questions or anything anybody wants to add? If not, we'll wrap this up. Oh, we have a question from Lo there. What's that, Sam? Hey, he just posted a picture of it. Do you see that picture, Sam? In the fireside chat, yeah. That's the one. Yeah. Uh, sure, sure. Yeah. So good. It's yeah, I think it's got such a cool vibe. It's like it sounds like it could be played by a campfire in some medieval setting, but it also like I don't know, it's just got a really great quality to it. I love it. So yeah, Wookiees sold on our music. Yeah, awesome. Um, I think it's like Sam, man, Sam has to deal with this whole team. He posts some music or he sends me a track, and it's like he's got to get this, all this nitpicking and tweaking, and but Sam does such a great job of taking feedback. So when we are, we want to start releasing some more stuff on Discord. We have to be a little cautious. We don't want to overdo it and just share everything. But we're gonna start releasing things in smaller chunks, like 30 seconds, and so you guys will get to hear some more tracks, and we'd love to hear your thoughts on it. So, and the great thing about making music so early, because a lot of games kind of push, and I think Ryan can speak to this a lot. A lot of games wait on music and soundtrack till the very end, and then it's kind of like like you have such a short period of time to do it, and it's sort of like an afterthought. We've made this a forethought. This is something we thought about really early on, and getting Sam involved so early has been so great, and it's just going to make our music that much better. I'd love to see World of Terra nominated, to be honest, and that might sound a little ambitious for this being our sort of first big PC console game, but uh, uh, Lo, did you ask your question? Let's see here. Did you at any point consider calling your development team 12 Monkeys? So you could call yourselves collectively Army of the 12 Monkeys? Not bad. Um, I mean, we technically refer to ourselves as monkeys and we make jokes about it all the time, but no, we actually never. I mean, the comparison to 12 Monkeys has crossed my mind. Um, 81 Monkeys came from the conversation I had a really, really long time ago, and it sort of stuck as our studio name. And then when I hired the team that we have now and we all started working together. I remember early on saying, "Hey guys, do you think we should stick with Inner Monkeys or should we come up with a new name?" And I fully thought they were like, "Oh yeah, no, let's come up with a new one and a new logo." But they were all like, "No, I love 81 Monkeys," and so. It was great because at that moment in time, I realized this actually is our studio name, and that's now what we are. So think I think that's all the questions. Maybe one day we'll beat 81. That's pretty big number for a small studio like ours, but never say never. We might be working on the World of Antera sequel and working on our roguelike that our action roguelike that we're so excited to make. That was a huge spoiler, by the way. I gotta delete that part from this fireside. No, I'm just kidding. Oh, it's so good. Yeah. Yes, that's actually something along those lines. Yep. Sort of maybe with a bit of an 80 Monkeys twist to it. What languages and packages do you use to create and code the game. Oh, okay, that's interesting. So we're writing it all in C plus plus, or sorry, C sharp, in Unity. Although we have had to extend the Unity engine to do the things that we needed to do for our pixel art. So, for instance, we had to rewrite the renderer completely. This is not the first time that we've rewritten engine code. We've done it for previous projects as well, but primarily it's just all in C sharp. So that doesn't include backend development. We have a backend developer who's like, this guy's got 25 plus years. We worked on like, I don't know, like five, I think, multiplayer online games with him. But I'm not going to speak on the type of languages that he uses for the back end, because I'm probably going to say something wrong. But yeah, C sharp, C++, primarily what we're developing World of Antera in. We are going to move into, mod support. There is a good, I know somebody asked this earlier, there is some good solutions for Unity that allows us to, bring external scripting and inject it into the game, as well as external assets like language packs or art, and then there may be an external scripting language that we're gonna leverage, as part of that. But I don't know enough about that to comment on it. There are some people much smarter than I am when it comes to stuff like that, who work on the team, who are not here right now. So yes, if you keep asking questions, I'm just going to be here all night long. No, I think we're going to have to wrap this up. We're like literally at the 2 hour mark. This is the longest fireside we ever done, but it's been a blast. I've really enjoyed this. Um, it's funny. I always have this experience. The fireside starts and I feel stressed. I feel anxious. I just can't help it. It's part of public speaking for me. And then I start talking and it's awkward for me. It's awkward at first. And then when people start engaging, all of it goes away and it becomes really easy for me to talk about the game. So it's really you guys and your participation that make these firesides so enjoyable for us and for me. And I think once you guys start asking questions, it becomes even more valuable for you. So thanks a lot. For those of you who are still here, I just want to leave you with this last thing. I know maybe you weren't all here for this part, or maybe you were. We are starting the 10 days of sharing. We want to encourage you guys to share indie games. We'd love for you to share our game. You can go and start doing it right now. I'm going to make a post this afternoon and post it. All you have to do is emote on that post, and you will get entered into the draw to name an NPC in our game. And you emote saying, I shared a game. I shared World of Terror, or I shared another game. It doesn't matter. I'm actually losing my voice. Wow. But I'm really excited by this opportunity, and I hope you guys join us, in getting the word out on what World of Antera is. So thanks a lot, guys. And Ryan, thanks, you and Sam, for joining. Okay. Bye, everyone.